never thought I'd see myself in this situation. I really didn't. I never thought, if I had any dreams at all.
Goldie Hawn, the woman whose sparkle lit up the 1970s, whose laughter became a soundtrack for an entire generation, whose every entrance carried sunshine with it, is finally telling the truth. For decades, she danced across screens with that unmistakable smile, convincing the world she lived in permanent light. But behind that laughter was a shadow no one ever saw. Now, at 79, with nothing left to lose and no career left to protect, Goldie is breaking her silence. She's revealing the 7 men, 7 Hollywood giants she quietly swore she would never work with again. Men who tried to diminish her, manipulate her, punish her, or laugh at her expense. Men who helped shape the Hollywood she survived and the woman she became. And when you hear their names, you'll understand exactly how much pain was hiding behind America's most beloved smile. 1. Kirk Douglas, the legend who reduced her to a pretty face. Goldie never expected the first man on her list to be a titan, a man whose face practically carved the shape of old Hollywood. But Kirk Douglas was the one who left her feeling the smallest. It happened in the late 1990s, when Goldie was already an Oscar winner, a producer, a woman who fought tooth and nail to be taken seriously. She sat beside Douglas on an industry panel, believing she would be treated as a peer. Instead, she was treated like a prop. Kirk greeted her warmly before the panel, kissed her hand, and said with a grin that made the room chuckle, "You haven't aged a day, sweetheart." The moderator took it as charm. The audience took it as a compliment. But Goldie felt the invisible cage locking around her. As the discussion kicked off, Goldie spoke about the changing roles for women, about producing her own films, about carving space in a man's world. But Douglas cut her off once, twice, 3 times, finishing her sentences, correcting her points, and redirecting attention back to himself. You could actually see her shut down, the moderator later recalled. She went from glowing to stone cold. When the panel ended, Goldie walked backstage, shoulders tight. "He talks to me," she whispered to a friend, "like I'm still the blonde in the bikini. I've won an Oscar." From that moment, Kirk Douglas became her silent wound, the reminder that even legends could belittle you without ever raising their voice. 2. Bill Murray, the humiliation that broke something inside her. If Douglas made her feel invisible, Bill Murray made her feel small. And Goldie never forgot that. In the late 1980s, she was attached to a quirky studio comedy. The studio thought pairing America's Sweetheart with comedy's wild card would be magic. Instead, it was chaos from the moment Murray walked in an hour late, dropping his half-finished coffee across the table and declaring, "Now we can start." Goldie felt her stomach turn. Something was wrong. As the reading began, she found her rhythm hitting every emotional beat with warmth. Murray interrupted her mid-scene. "Why don't you try acting like you've done drama before?" he sneered. The men laughed. Goldie didn't. She closed her script, rose from her chair, and walked out without uttering a single word. Silence became her armor. The next morning, her team called the studio. Goldie was out. No explanation. No drama. Just gone. Years later, when asked if she would ever work with Murray again, her voice was steady and calm. No interest. She didn't need revenge. She needed peace. 3. Seeing Penn, the public insult she never saw coming. Goldie thought she had seen every kind of arrogance men could throw at her. But Sean Penn introduced her to a new kind under the chandeliers of a Malibu charity gala. Goldie had been invited to speak about mental health, a topic she poured her heart into for decades. She stepped up to the microphone. The room quieted. Except for one man. Penn sighed loudly from his table, rolling his eyes and muttering another celebrity wellness sermon. Goldie kept talking. When she finished, the room applauded warmly, everyone except Penn, who leaned back in his chair, smirked, and said loudly enough for half the ballroom to hear she should stick to giggling. Goldie walked off stage, smiling politely. But once inside her car, the mask cracked. "My whole career," she whispered, "and I'm still reduced to giggles." She didn't get angry. She got done. She vowed never to attend another event where Penn's name appeared. When asked years later what she thought of him, she simply smiled, "Not my energy." 4. Dustin Hoffman, the genius who made her feel like an amateur. Next on her secret list was a man the world worshipped. But Goldie saw the part the world ignored, the arrogance hiding inside the brilliance. It was the early 1980s, and Goldie was ready to step beyond comedy and take on a serious dramatic role. Producers paired her with Dustin Hoffman for a chemistry read. She believed it would be powerful. It was devastating instead. Halfway through the reading, Hoffman suddenly stopped, turned to the producers, and said she's still playing it like a sitcom. The room froze. Goldie kept her eyes fixed on the script, feeling her cheeks burn. But she finished the scene with grace, thanked them, and left. The next morning, she called her agent. I'm out. I won't chase validation in a room full of men who already decided I'm a joke. Hoffman thought he was offering critique. He was actually revealing his contempt. Goldie never forgot it. 5. Chevy Chase, the comedian who turned their hit into hell. Before her disappointment with Hoffman or Penn, there was Chevy Chase, the co-star who transformed a dream into a nightmare. In 1978, Foul Play looked like a perfect pairing. Goldie, Hollywood's sweetheart, Chevy, the biggest comic star of the decade. But behind the camera, Goldie lived through a different movie entirely. Chevy strutted onto set each morning like he owned the studio. He constantly rewrote jokes, mocked entire scenes, and sulked when Goldie got bigger laughs. More than once she overheard him mutter, "She's lucky to be here." One night after another ego-driven meltdown, Chevy stormed off set, refusing to return unless the director rewrote an entire sequence. Goldie sat on a wooden step nearby, exhausted. "He's not funny when the cameras stop rolling," she whispered to her stylist. "He's just mean." The public adored their chemistry. Privately, Goldie swore she would never endure it again. So when the studio offered millions for a sequel, her answer was instant not interested. 6. Warren Beatty, the man who never forgave her for saying no. Long before she faced the egos of Chase or Hoffman, Goldie encountered a different kind of danger, the power of a man who didn't handle rejection. In the late 1970s, Warren Beatty set his sights on her. Everyone in Hollywood knew what that meant. Warren didn't flirt. He hunted. He invited her to dinners, to private parties, to quiet evenings in his Beverly Hills home. Goldie was polite but firm. She didn't flirt back. She didn't play the game. And that's when the mask slipped. Within weeks, Goldie noticed promising roles disappear. Directors who had once been eager stopped returning her calls. "Rumors trickle back through back channels. Warren says you're difficult. Warren says you're not serious material." Goldie realized the truth. Her refusal didn't bruise his ego. It enraged it. Years later, fate placed them at the same awards show. Warren approached with that effortless charm. Goldie smiled sweetly, listened for a moment, then turned her back mid-sentence. "Some men," she later said, "punish you for having boundaries." 7. Jack Nicholson, the charmer who tried to control the narrative. The final man on Goldie's secret list was someone Hollywood worshipped for his charisma, Jack Nicholson. Their story didn't involve shouting humiliation or public insults. It was quieter, but in some ways more dangerous. It happened on the set of a film Goldie was considering in the mid-1980s. Nicholson, who had been cast as the lead, requested a private meeting to talk chemistry. Goldie, always professional, agreed. But within minutes, she realized the meeting wasn't about chemistry at all. It was about control. Jack leaned back, cigarette dangling, and said, "Listen, Goldie, if you want this picture to work, you need to trust me. Let me guide the tone." Goldie blinked. "Guide the tone, you know," he said. "Casually, your thing is cute, but this needs weight. I can coach you through it." Goldie felt the old heat rising, the familiar burn of being minimized. She stood up, smiled politely, and said, "Jack, I've been guiding my own tone since before you bought your first sunglasses." The role disappeared days later. Goldie didn't care. "I won't shrink myself so someone else can feel bigger," she later said. Goldie Hawn spent decades making the world believe that joy was her natural state, that she floated through Hollywood untouched by darkness. But the truth is far more human, far more powerful, and far more inspiring. For 40 years, America believed Goldie lived in perpetual sunshine, and in many ways she did not because life was easy, but because she refused to let the storm swallow her. The 7 men she quietly swore off weren't just difficult collaborators. They were symbols of the battles she fought behind the curtain, the dismissals, the condescension, the quiet power plays that tried to shrink her into something small enough to control. That is the real Goldie Hawn, not the giggling blonde, not the ditzy characters she portrayed so well, but a woman who survived and succeeded on her own terms. A woman who smiled not because she was naive, but because she earned the right to choose joy over resentment. So now the question turns to you because stories like this aren't just entertainment, they're mirrors reflecting the truth we often miss. Which of these 7 names shocked you the most? Was it the legend, the comedian, the genius, the icon, and more importantly, do you think Goldie was right to stay silent all these years, or should she have exposed these stories sooner? Your voice matters here. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear who surprised you, who disappointed you, and which moment changed how you see Goldie forever. And before you go, make sure you hit like if you believe forgotten truths deserve to be uncovered. Share this video if you think more people should know the real story behind the smile. And don't forget to subscribe because Hollywood's brightest faces often hide the darkest histories, and the next name on our list might just rewrite everything you thought you knew about your favorite stars. Sometimes the legends we worship are more complicated than the myths we grew up with. And sometimes the women who survived them are far stronger than anyone ever realized.